Today on America's Court with Judge Ross.
Okay, what's the pain that Mr. Payne has caused?
I tripped. My cane fell all the way to the bottom of the steps, and I cried like a baby.
In my courtroom, it's about equity and fairness. You want him to pay $628?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, knock my socks off. Justice should be more than just some foreign concept. I actually want you to learn something. The law talks about something may in fact be true, but can they prove it? And that's what's tough.
Fair, firm, compassionate. This is America's Court with Judge Ross. Myra Lewis claims she was forced to climb 2 flights of stairs, which led to her being injured because her neighbor parked in her handicapped space. Ms. Lewis is suing Jonathan Payne in the amount of $647.28. Mr. Payne claims he only parked in the spot in an effort to help his pregnant wife who was in labor.
All rise. Remain standing and come to order. This court is now in session. The Honorable Judge Kevin Ross presiding.
Ladies and gentlemen, you may be seated.
All parties must sworn, Your Honor.
Third, good Deputy Thomas. Miss Lewis, you're not happy.
No, I'm not happy.
I know you got someone parking in your handicap spot, and that's not working for you.
Well, the thing is, I've lived in this place for 12 years, and everybody knows that's my parking space.
Everybody
it's right
knows.
At the front.
It's a public space. It's
and
not.
Mr. Payne?
Your Honor.
Now, you know Miss Lewis.
I do.
And you know she's been living at this location for some time.
Yes, I do.
And you know that, for the most part, everyone respects that this spot
Right.
is one that she normally parks
Right.
in. Is
Absolutely.
that a true statement?
It is.
Okay. Now, how did we get to the place where you are in that spot?
Well, Your Honor, my wife and I, we moved into Tulsa, Oklahoma about a year and a half ago now. We moved into the apartment complex we're in now on our 2nd floor. When we
And
moved
Ms.
in...
Lewis, just so I'm clear, you're on the first floor.
Second floor, right above my apartment.
You're on the first floor.
I'm
they're
on the
second
first floor.
Okay. And this gentleman's nodding. Is this your witness
Yes,
that you bring
he's
here?
the owner. That's Mr. Walker. He's the
Mr.
owner
Walker,
of the
come on
building.
up, sir. I can bring you into the conversation now as well.
Thank you, Your Honor.
You're the owner of the property?
I have.
How long have you owned the property, sir?
I've owned the building for 15 years, Your Honor.
Okay. And how long has Miss Lewis been a tenant?
She's been a tenant for 12 years in
Right.
good standing.
Okay.
My favorite tenant.
Haven't had any problems?
No
You
problems at all.
showing favorites with your tenants? Oh, my
yes,
God.
yes, he is, Your Honor.
This is outrageous.
She's like family, Your Honor.
She's like family.
Absolutely.
Well, things aren't going to work out well with you, Mr. Payne, if she's like family, because what is he to you then?
I'm a new tenant, Your Honor. That's all I
I couldn't have said it any politer.
Okay, what's the pain that Mr. Payne has caused, sir?
He is the rudest, self-centered, egotistical tenant I have come across in my 15 years.
Do you get your rent on the first every month?
I do, Your Honor.
Okay.
I do, and that's
there.
really all I'm concerned about.
Exactly.
Thank you.
But he's the only one in the building that I don't get along with.
That's no surprise. Because he lives above you, right? Because
yes,
other
and they
folks
make
are
a
a
lot
little
of
bit
noise.
away from you, so they don't necessarily have so much of proximity to you.
Well, and those that do have issue.
Your Honor,
Well,
no one has
it's
issue.
not my place to figure out who has issues with Miss Lewis and why. I'm dealing with you and your issues with Miss
Understandable.
Lewis. Let's talk about this parking space.
This parking space is one of 12 spaces that lie horizontal to our building for the units. It is the first space, and everyone for the last 12 years has agreed that Myra will use that space because of her
They've
hip
agreed in
and her
writing,
limitations.
or is it just sort of a common understanding?
Well, it was a common understanding until...
Was it always a handicap space?
No, I made it a handicap space.
What?
I petitioned
You made it
the
a
city.
handicap
I
space.
petitioned the city. I took
Okay.
it upon myself, Your Honor. She didn't ask for any special
The
allowances.
petition for it to be considered a handicap space, you don't have handicap spaces anywhere else?
No, that is the only space
And
for our building.
For the building. If someone moved into the building that also was able to receive a handicap placard, would they legally be able to park in that space?
Well, Your Honor, yes, they would legally be able
And why
to
is
use
that,
that
sir?
space. They have legally gone through the process to get a placard themselves. However, everybody...
No, we're not. You want to rush this on.
No.
Slow your roll.
Okay.
The issue is not that this is Miss Lewis's space. The issue is this is a handicap space for anyone that qualifies.
That is correct.
Correct?
Yes, sir.
But I'm the only one in the building who's elderly and disabled.
I understand that. The space itself is not yours.
Coming up on America's Court.
Pulled in really quickly to just run upstairs and grab my wife. Unfortunately, it did take a few more minutes than I expected because she was in so much pain I couldn't really get her to move.
And later.
Were you aware that that was his out-of-pocket cost?
I don't really consider the fact that you have to pay for materials.
Welcome to the real world.
Closed captioning provided by. If you'll be in the Los Angeles area and want to bring your case to court, call 1-888-552-6878. This is America's Court with Judge Ross. America's Court is back with the case of Myra Lewis, who is suing her neighbor Jonathan Payne for $647.28.
If Mr. Payne invites someone over that's handicapped or they drive in and they have a placard, and that's the only space that has a handicap designation, that person can park in that space, correct?
Well, that hasn't happened actually
I
up till now.
understand that. You are going to fight this fight with me. That's okay. That's okay. But that is what is acceptable in the eyes of the law. Because according to you, you didn't try to get 2 or 3 handicap spaces. You focused on
No,
one.
I petitioned for 1, Your Honor.
So anyone that's coming in and out of that apartment complex, if they see that that's a handicapped space, they can park there if they've got a placard.
But he's not handicapped.
You are killing me. Yes, Mr. Payne, you are not handicapped.
No, I am not, Your Honor.
You were getting ready to talk about your wife.
Yes, I was. After we moved into our apartment complex, my wife and I got pregnant. It's our first child. And, you know, I work a lot of long hours, and I'm an entrepreneur. I started my own company. And, you know, so it's not very often I'm actually at home with her. So you can only imagine as a first child, as a first-time father, I was constantly, you know, nervous every time my wife called and she's on the other line, especially as we came into the end of the pregnancy.
Right.
It was worse because at the end of her 3rd trimester, she was actually told by the doctors that she needed to stay off of her feet because she was having problems with her pregnancy. And so I had actually also petitioned.
Was she pretty much on bed rest?
Yes, she was, Your Honor. Okay. She was able to move. She's able to stand and walk, but it is extremely painful. And as little as she can do, we try to keep that so.
Okay. You saw his wife.
Well, I know she's pregnant.
You knew she was pregnant. It's not like they're faking it. So, Ms. Lewis, you have children, correct?
I do. I have 2 sons.
All right. You've been pregnant, and during the period of your pregnancy with both your children, I take it you experienced some discomfort in terms of walking and having extra weight on you and so forth. So you can empathize from mother to another mother.
Yeah, I understand that.
You understand that, right? Because the issue was you needed that space for your wife.
Absolutely.
And you had a problem with that.
He said it was an emergency.
Okay.
But his wife didn't have a baby. They just went to the hospital.
She had the Braxton Hicks, Your Honor. We didn't know it was a false.
She had the what?
Braxton Hicks contractions.
Oh, she thought she was
getting
ready
to... like I said, as first-time parents, we had no idea that that was even something to expect, to be honest with you.
Right.
So
and then you just went into panic mode.
Yeah, so I got a phone call.
Where had your car been prior?
Well, I was actually at work, Your Honor. I got a phone call saying, it's happening now, get here. And
now!
So I've never run that fast, man. I ran, I jumped in the car, I sped there, and my only concern was to get her to the hospital. And as I pulled in, I mean, I do understand that normally that's where Mrs. Lewis parks, but I thought we'll be in, we'll be out, I just need to get her to the hospital. So
right.
I pulled in really quickly to just run upstairs and grab my wife. Unfortunately, it did take a few more minutes than I expected because she was in so much pain I couldn't really get her to move.
Mm-hmm. And in the meantime, you had been out, I take it, and came in?
Yes, I came back from the pharmacy.
Okay.
So I decided to go upstairs
right.
and tell them I tripped and I really hurt myself very badly.
Yes.
And my cane fell all the way to the bottom of the steps, and I cried like a baby. Well, they came out of their apartment, and asked her whether I was okay.
And what exactly resulted as a result of the fall?
Well, another neighbor came. They just drove off. But another neighbor came and called 911.
You just left her there?
No, Your Honor. I asked her if she was okay and if she needed any assistance. She was just yelling at me, saying that I parked in her space and it was my fault.
Did you help
and
her
I
get back
asked
to her unit?
Well, I asked her one last time if I could please help her, and she said no. I saw another neighbor coming, so my wife and I took off for the hospital. She denied needing any help.
And you want him to pay for your injuries, your medical injuries?
The ambulance came and took me to the hospital. I want him to pay for the ambulance.
Okay.
I can't
you have
afford
proof of that, Bill, ma'am? Sir, if you weren't in the parking space, Ms. Lewis's position has some merit. What do you say about parking in that parking space?
Well, Your Honor, there's two things that have to do with that. First and foremost was I recognized that it was indeed a handicapped space. And in that moment, I thought the worst that could happen is I get a $250 ticket, and I will take that for my child's life any day. For my wife's comfort and to get my child to the hospital, a $250 ticket is not even a thought. On top of that, Your Honor, we had actually already petitioned to get a handicap placard ourselves because of her pregnancy issues, and we were having a hard time getting her around.
Based on the evidence and testimony before this court, the gavel was going to come down in favor of the defendant. It wasn't foreseeable that as a result of his actions that you would have this injury. And so under a theory of negligence, there has to be some reasonable duty of care to the person who's impacted. That you made the decision to not get the car towed or call Mr. Walker or see if someone else could go up to the stairs, that you made the decision, that's not something that he's legally obligated to have to compensate you for.
Well, I made the decision to keep from having their car towed away.
I understand that.
I didn't want to do
And
that.
that decision, unfortunately, has resulted in you not being able to sustain your burden. Glad to see you're feeling better, ma'am. Your matter's dismissed. Case closed.
All rise.
Judge Ross has ruled in favor of the defendant. The plaintiff's claim has been denied.
I am glad that the judge ruled in my favor. I do feel bad that Miss Lewis fell and hurt herself, but at the end of the day, I did have to take care of my wife.
Mr. Payne hadn't parked in my parking spot, I would never have fallen. And if he hadn't parked in my spot, none of this would have ever happened.
And coming up on America's Court with Judge Ross.
Were you aware that that was his out-of-pocket cost?
I don't really consider the fact that you have to pay for materials.
Welcome to the real world.
Closed captioning provided by
Bug bites, itchy rash.
Relief starts now. Gold Bond Rapid Relief. 2 itch-fighting medicines instantly relieve summer itches. Gold Bond.
This is America's Court with Judge Ross. This is America's Court with Judge Ross. Eugene Flores claims his roommate sold a painting of his without his permission while he was out of town. Mr. Flores is suing Samantha Jane in the amount of $575. Ms. Jane claims she was just trying to motivate Mr. Flores to follow his dreams because he doesn't believe in himself.
Let's talk about this painting. You're an artist.
I am.
You must be pretty good.
I'd like to think so. I've been painting since I was 7.
And this would be an exciting time that you finally sold something, but it turned out to be not quite the way you intended it.
Exactly. My roommate decided that while I was away,
Yes.
to take an unfinished piece of mine and sell it online to an art curator, which is that some would say is a good thing for me. But this is a piece that is unfinished. It's not something that I was ready to sell. It's not the kind of message I want to put out there, especially being my first
Well, you just
work.
want to own your own brand and do it the way
Exactly.
you want to do it. I get that. Mr. James, why did you take it upon yourself? I take it you did it from a good place.
Yeah,
And it
that's correct.
backfired on you.
This is my friend. I only wanted to get his artwork out and to be seen. There's this gallery downtown called The Lime, and I've been there a few times with my friends, and they have some really cool, hip artists that put their work in there. I'm an artist also. I'm a dancer.
Oh, you don't paint, you dance.
Correct,
That's
I
your
do
thing.
dance.
All right.
And so I felt that he needed to get his work out there to be seen. You said that it wasn't perfect, but is art ever perfect? Like, are you ever done? Is it ever finished?
Here's the problem. It's his call. Right?
Okay.
Just like if someone were to say, if you were creating some sort of dance, and then someone said, we're going to take that choreography and just put it to something else, and you were like, but I'm not done yet. There's aspects of this that I still need to flush out. Well, that would be your call to make if it was something that you created, right?
Okay, that's fair.
So I get that he says for him, it's not done.
Coming up on America's Court.
Were you aware that that was his out-of-pocket cost?
So I don't really consider the fact that you have to pay for materials.
Welcome to the real world.
Closed captioning provided by... This is America's Court with Judge Ross. America's Court is back with the case of Eugene Flores, who is suing Samantha Jane for $575.
The issue here is you didn't just go beyond pushing him. The issue is the artwork was in fact sold.
It was only sold for $75 as well, and I spent $600 and
I'll take a look at that.
$50. The evidence is right there, the receipt. I spent $550 on the canvas itself and $100 for the paint. So my return investment wasn't too kind when it came to $75.
$550 for the canvas, $100 for the paint.
Yes.
And were you aware that that was his out-of-pocket costs?
Honestly, I wasn't. My medium is my body, so I don't really consider the fact that you have to pay for materials.
Welcome to the real world. And how did it come about that you just took it upon yourself to do this as opposed to asking him?
Well, since he was visiting his mother, he was out of town, and I didn't understand that he wanted to work on the painting more. It was hung up.
All right, well, that's a text. That's FaceTime. That's an email.
I wanted to surprise him. I knew that he wouldn't be as excited about it as I was until it had already been sold. Like, if I had asked him, I think he would have said no, because all of our friends have been pushing him to sell it, and he just didn't want to. But I thought that if I just took the initiative and, like, just put his art out there.
What was your goal in engaging in the behavior that you engaged in? What were you expecting to come out of this?
I was expecting my friend to come home and be really excited that their piece was going to be in a gallery. A lot of people are going to see his work. It was sold to a gallery? It was sold to a curator who's going to put it in the gallery.
And is this a gallery that would be perceived as, impressive to other people in the art community? I mean, would this be a big deal to be in this particular gallery?
Yes, and the art curator will probably sell it for around the price that I had. If I was going to sell it, I would have priced it around that same range, around like $600
and that's where the $575 comes in.
Yes.
Because you're saying that I want to at least get the compensation of the craft and the time and the energy and the actual canvas that I invested.
Yeah, I worked blood, sweat, and tears into this.
That doesn't seem unreasonable to me.
Judge Ross's verdict when America's Court returns. You're watching America's Court with Judge Ross. This is America's Court with Judge Ross.
He's not suing you to make a lot of money. He's suing you to say, don't mess with my stuff. You got to get that lesson.
All right.
You're going to learn today. Judgment in favor of the plaintiff. Case closed.
All rise.
Judge Ross has ruled in favor of the plaintiff. The defendant has been ordered to pay $575.
Sam needs to learn to respect boundaries. My art piece wasn't finished, and now she has to pay.
I shouldn't have touched his art. That was a poor choice, but I hope we can still be friends.
Follow America's Court on Facebook and Twitter. This has been a production.